G'day, Warbles on a lot here, speaking from the northeast corner of the Endangered Species Sanctuary that I pay rates on. I'm actually sitting in a creek bed. You can see up the hill on one side, see up the hill on the other side. So this clip's about control freaks. I've only been playing with YouTube for 4 or 5 months, and I've discovered there are a few species of control freaks. There's the people who use the pending tank, the delay file. So they have a say, they make their little clip, they post it, they push their opinion. And you stumble across it, you have a look at their clip, it may be interesting, it may be ridiculous, it may be admirable. You go down to express your opinion and you find that whatever comment you've made has been sucked up by a delay tank, because the individual is not particularly interested in free speech. They want to control other people's input. They are manipulative, they're thin-skinned, fragile egos, perhaps overcompensated inferiority complexes, but they don't trust the world to give them a fair go, so they try to alter the odds in their own favour. It annoys me, quite honestly it does. It doesn't annoy me as much as the people who have the comments switched off entirely. I mean, that's a Pol Pot style of a scenario, an Adolf Hitler style of a scenario, where they want to broadcast their opinion with their fingers in their ears, so nobody else is entitled or able to say anything at all whatsoever. It's just tragic. I've discovered that the people who are most likely to have the comments disabled or a pending tank stuck on there are the fundamentalists, the evangelists, the people who are really totally pushing one opinion. Now it doesn't matter whether they're fundamentalist, evangelist, atheists, or fundamentalist evangelist Christians, fundamentalist evangelist Muslims, fundamentalist evangelist Jews. They can be evangelistic lesbians, homosexuals, homophobes, Nazis, Ku Klux Klansmen, the people who are out there to force the world to their opinion, to conform to their view. They are the ones who won't tolerate anybody else's opinion on their comment thread under their clips. And it's an immeasurable sadness to me that the political party I vote for, the AustralianGreens, they are one of the worst offenders that I strike. Perhaps 50% of their comments are completely blocked. You can't make a comment, you can't push the like or the dislike button, they don't want to know. They're going to tell you their opinion and you're stuck with it. Perhaps another 25%, you can give it a like or a dislike, and perhaps 25% you can express your opinion, but you'll find that half of those it goes into a delay tank. They are the most repressive mob I've been looking at on YouTube. Then you have the category of people who are so thin-skinned that after 1 or 2 comments they'll user block the individual they disagree with. And I've only had this happen to me twice. Now, once it was a case where I had a clip called Sunfoil Science. It was full of fairly high-tech stuff and I uploaded it from my mobile. Over in the Excited States there was a 350-pound woman who uploaded a clip from her mobile which showed her looking at the mirror and describing in joyous tones how the third roll of fat under where her chin should be was slightly smaller this week than it was last week due to the diet regime, and how happy she was with how beautiful she was. And I left her a polite comment asking if she could check her tags and see if there was a reason why this clip was underneath one of mine on Sunfoil Science. A week later she was still there, so I sent her another comment where I pointed out that her theory that she was a big boned girl was in error, owing to the fact that all humans have a standard sized skeleton, and that underneath those hundreds of pounds of overfed, under-exercised blubber there was a normal-sized skeleton that lived in permanent fear and trembling of falling over and being broken by the impact with planet Earth. A week later she was still there under my Sunfoil Science clip, and I was getting a bit cranky and I went to make another comment, and when I posted it, bingo, red line across the top of the screen. User blocked. Okay, so there's another category of people who are particularly obnoxious control freaks, in my view, and they're the ones who make apparently infinite series of response to reply to comment to objection to response to reply to comment to objection ad infinitum ad nauseum vids about something that somebody else said that they disagreed with or agreed with days, weeks, months or even years ago. It's unbelievable to me that anybody would spend 2 hours or so making a 1 hour response video ripping somebody else to shreds for something that really doesn't matter. I mean, it's all opinion based. I mean, they're not arguing about whether the sun circles the earth or the earth circles the sun, and in America 65% of university graduates believe that the sun circles the earth, so yeah, there are people who get that wrong, and some places it's the majority. No. These people are making videos on matters of opinion that are about as advanced as red is prettier than blue. It's just a total waste of time. And the bit that gets me is none of these dogmatic dingbats seem to have grasped the point that every individual human views the world through their own eyes, lit by the light of their own experiences and what has been taught to them in infancy. So life is, in that respect, relative and observer-oriented, because two people can observe exactly the same phenomenon and consider it to be a manifestation of entirely different laws of physics and metaphysics and psychology, because life is relative. We each have our own view, and it's like getting around with a pair of telescopes in front of your eyes and spotlights attached to your hat over your ears with quadruple parallel beams so that you've got a really, really highly magnified view of what you're looking at, but you can't see shit about what other people are perceiving. As an example, let's take the conundrum regarding God theories. Now, there are various kinds of God theories, two main ones. There are powerless God theories and there are powerful God theories. Now, the powerful God theories contend that if you figure out what the God theory wants to achieve with life in the universe, and if you attempt to live your existence within the grain of that plan for life in the universe, then the God theory will assist your endeavours, and anybody who tries to put a spoke in your wheels will probably find themselves tripping over their own toe and bashing their nose against a rock. And it all looks like coincidence and synchronicity, and there are people who can't cope with the powerful God theory, so they develop a powerless God theory. And in the powerless God theory, responsibility for one's own personal safety at all moments of the day devolves onto the individual concerned. Anything that you can imagine that may be dangerous, then you must defend yourself against. Otherwise, it'll get you. Now, with the people who call themselves atheists, I don't really mind that they feel compelled to pay taxes, to have a common pool of money, to pay warriors, to be prepared to kill in their defence, because up front they say they don't believe that any God theory is capable of keeping them safe. They have to polish the guns in peacetime. That's their view and they're entitled to it. I think they're wrong, I think they're foolish, I think it's a total bloody waste of time, but that's their view. It's their trip on one lifetime on spaceship Earth, and they can do with it whatever they want. The ones who really perplex me, disturb me in some ways, are the people who profess to have a belief in a powerful God theory, but they pay their tax to support the military to defend them against the day when the wicked evil baddies are going to come over the horizon because their God theory ain't so powerful after all. So they put themselves through a double series of exercises in blasphemy and hypocrisy, in my view. There are people who say they subscribe to a powerful God theory, but they treat their powerful God theory as if it was an infant. As an example, I would give the Orthodox Jewish women in New York who subscribe to a God theory that says they should not display their hair in public. Therefore, they wear blonde wigs while going shopping, and they think their God theory is infantile enough to accept that. I'll put the Japanese followers of the Bushido Code during the Second World War alongside those Jewish women wearing wigs to fool God. The Japanese were capturing Australian and American soldiers, and they were killing them and butchering them and eating their liver in an attempt to absorb the atmosphere of victory, because they could not understand why their warrior god was allowing the Imperial Japanese Army to lose to the Australians and the Americans and the British. Infantile views of the God theory. If it irritates me, can you imagine how irritating it must be to the God theory? A couple of further sublime examples of this ridiculous practice would have to be that the Pope of the Catholic Church lives in the Vatican behind armed guards, because the Pope of the Catholic Church subscribes to a powerless God theory. He not only has an insurance policy for the roof of the church against storm and tempest, he has armed guards, and they have another insurance policy to cover the congregation against accident, maybe slipping on the wet steps of the church while walking out of the service. And they have another policy entirely to pay the legal expenses of the pedophile priests. That's why every time a priest is charged, you can't get a comment out of the church, because their legal advisors have advised them to make no comment. And the legal advisors are paid for by the church's insurance policy to pay such legal advice. And then the real fun begins when two clowns who subscribe to powerless God theories make mouth noises as if they have a firm belief in a powerful God theory, and then they whip out their weapons and they belabour each other with ballistics. So Osama bin Laden, who said that he was a warrior for his God theory, he had rocket-propelled grenade launchers and AK-47s when President Barack Obama from the excited snakes of Norte Americano sent in his team of trained SEALs, because Barack Obama, although he says he's a Christian, he hides behind every weapon in the Pentagon. They are all hypocrites, blasphemous, bloody hypocrites. No wonder their society doesn't function. They're God-forsaken. Every government on the planet at the moment spends most of its time attempting to regulate the interest rates so as to cause their economy to grow, so that the economic activity can be taxed in order to fund the warriors. And it's 5,000 years since they invented deficit finance, and in that 5,000 years every God theory is taught, thou shalt not commit usury, that is, thou shalt not pay or charge interest on loans, and thou shalt not kill. Now, usury is obviously wrong, because if you're paying 10% interest, you have to make 11 harvests in 10 years and the land gets no time fallow. So you create a desert and you leave a debt to your son after you work yourself to an early death. And your children's only way out is to borrow more money, to buy more tools, to trash more rainforest. And that's how every desert on the planet has been built, by deficit-financed agriculture. And killing is obviously wrong, because in the eyes of any God theory worth a pinch of goat shit on the compost heap, no one human soul is any more or less worthy than any other human soul, because all souls are immortal. They just have slightly different moral and ethical starting points and slightly different physical, environmental benefits available, and they have different learning curves, and it's all self-directed. And because it's self-directed, if one concentration camp guard at Auschwitz or Guantanamo Bay is to be given the free will to obey inhumane orders, then somebody else has to be their innocent victim. So on the cosmic scoreboard, within the wheel of karma, some people get a good deal for a while and some people get a bad deal for a while, but over the long run, it all evens out. Just at the moment, it's getting a bit interesting, because 5,000 years of economic growth in defiance of the God theories has destroyed the global environmental surplus, and with no global environmental surplus, there's no ability to conduct any economic activity, so industrial economic society is about to disappear up its own armpit very shortly. On the bright side, at least, there's a selective breeding program been running for thousands of years so that the meek shall inherit the earth. It works because combat veterans have twice the suicide death rate and twice the psychosis rate of people who've never been in combat, but the children of combat veterans have 4 times the death rate of the background population, 3 times the suicide rate, 1.8 times the death by accident rate, 1.2 times the death by illness rate. So the warriors cull themselves. It's a Darwin Award to enlist in any armed farce, and you get your award confirmed when you yourself are buried or when you bury your child. Thus the meek shall inherit the earth soon. So Have faith, y'all.